Great to be at a live conference, always great to be in Singapore. And when you travel, as you hear, I'm not from here, you always learn something. So the first thing I learned from Jeremiah, are my trousers too short or too long? Do you have to fold them up a little bit to go with the fashion here? Apparently, right? So sorry, I missed that one. And the second one is, as you can hear from my accent, I'm from Germany. In Germany, it's acceptable to congratulate people for their birthday in the month after the birthday. So there was a big birthday here. Who's based and lives in Singapore? Yeah, happy birthday to the Singaporeans. What an amazing story. So, what an amazing success story. All right, I'm going to talk about the framework, how to understand what is happening around us, what has really changed quickly as you are masters in that, we're in the middle of that, what are success strategies to move forward from that, and then have some recommendations for you. So where will you be 5 years from now? That's the big, big question, right? We're always running so fast, we're thinking about how we're going to make the next month, maybe the next year, but really the big transformational change is happening in a 5+ year time frame, right? So take the time off on a weekend, make an offsite with your team, really think, where do you want your team, your enterprise be 5 years from now? I'm going to help you with a little framework on that, right? There's macro trends which you cannot influence, which you cannot control, right? That is, what's going to happen in the Taiwan situation? How is the war in the Ukraine going to end? Who's going to win the midterm elections in the US? How cold is it going to be in European living rooms this winter? We don't know that, right? So that's what you have to work with. The second one, and this is a general framework, you're the experts in your enterprise, right? You're the stewards of people in your company. Right? You know about the dynamic workforce change. We'll talk about them, but that's what you have to be up to speed. That's your contribution to your enterprise success in the next 5 years. We'll talk about disruptive technology adoption and how that creates what really matters and transforms industries, new digital, new business models. So, enterprise acceleration is the most important trend in my research area, right? I would love to know from anybody of you, is anybody in an industry which is slowing down year over year? Anybody? I always get the same answer, right? I would love to find the industry which is slowing down because maybe when I get older, I'm still a little younger than Singapore, but then I might want to retire there, right? So, but nothing is getting slower from that perspective. It always goes faster. And my goal is that I give you 2-3 new thoughts which you haven't heard before. Here's the one slide which is important you should understand. You can take your pictures and make your pictures, put them on social, and that is about what has really happened in the world. And business best practice of enterprise have to improve every year. 2-3%, that's a very good return for shareholders, that's a good success for companies. And for the longest time, technology capabilities were always behind what business wanted to do. Couldn't satisfy that completely, were always a compromise. So the big thing is that somewhere between 2010 and 2020, for different areas, it got overtaken. I give you an example. Right? We today fully expect that we can do a video conference, a Zoom call or whatever, with any person on the planet at good enough quality. 5 years ago, impossible. 10 years ago, laughable. Right? Wouldn't happen. Infinite connectivity. And what's happening is that we're in these 3-4 phases. Legacy phase we operate really well in. We know technology doesn't rule right. There's an inflection phase where technology for the first time can do more than what business best practices demand, and that creates an opportunity. And we'll talk about the opportunity and what it means for HR. And maybe then, beyond that, there's going to be university professors talking about this, and there's going to be a catch-up phase. So digitization, major, major trend. Something which you're not so familiar with over here is aging population. Right? The first world is getting more and more older. They're operating right now on a model of one person retired, 6 people working. They're moving down to 1 person retired and 2 people working. So think about what this will mean for software productivity, automation, and the need for acceleration for enterprise, going down from 6 to 2 people working. Massive. And of course, we know pandemic, let's not talk about this, but at the end of the day, your second takeaway slide, it's always about to get the right mix, like a perfect barkeeper does, between people and technology. So what has changed, right? Nobody's at the office anymore, right? I don't know what the office work from home policy specifically here is, but offices look like big dumps of capital investment, right? Flexibility is king. right? We ran through this a second time. This is the fabled procession talking about HR. Apple finally managed to hire an AI guy away from Google, right? What did he say? What did he do when the work from home policy was instituted by Mr. Cook? He said, I'm quitting. I'm not going to work back at home at the office, back at the office. And ironically, to add infamy, he went back to Google. So great reassessment is happening, right? I don't like to call it the great resignation because people are not resigning, they're not stopping to work. They're reassessing what they're doing. They're reassessing what they want in their life, in their work-life balance, for their career, for their family. They're thinking about, where do I want to work? Do I really want to work in an office? Do I want to work in a white-collar environment? Do I want to work in a blue-collar environment? Where do I want to live? Biggest change in the future of work is happening where I want to live. Talent pools to hire people usually were inside the area and the time zone where you were and or your relocation budget. Now, people can work from anywhere in the world. Your talent pools have gone bigger than ever before. If anybody is telling me I can't find the talent, not a true story. You might not be able to afford it, you might not be able to tell it, you might not be able to attract it, but massive talent pools. And we see a two-tier economy, and that split between the people on the top who can work virtually, who work in the knowledge economy, who work in services often, whereas the people on the bottom who still have to go to a factory to produce and make something. Right? And the companies who are on the bottom side, they typically say, well, if our factory workers have to show up, our white-collar workers in the office have to show up as well. So it's a two-tier economy, and I think if it stays like this for the foreseeable future, you will see different levels of automation by the software vendors for these areas. Work models determine the way of thinking, right? So you will see beyond yourself, there's always been the vertical aspects, but the way how your company creates its value, how your work model works, determines the way of thinking, how you return to work, how your future of work is going to be looking like. And it might be the end of cities, the end of density, but being in Singapore, I don't think that so much recently. But success strategies, right? Companies always had to automate. Right? You always want to have a balance between quality and affordability of a software solution, or of an automation solution, or even an AI solution. Right? That center, because people are less reliable, not available, yeah, good one to take a picture too, is moving more down to the bottom left, which means companies have to automate more, and they're ready to pay less for that. And so more automation is happening all across the world for that reason, because we're running literally out of hands. So new business models are being created, right? Any idea what this is? It's not software as a service, but sneaker as a service. Yeah, I love sneakers, right? I still don't understand why can't they find my runs, know I'm in Singapore, humidity, the wear and tear on my on shoes is going to be higher, why don't they pitch to me the next on shoe in time, right? Future model, sneakers as a service. Also interesting. What is this? What's the T stand for? Toaster as a service, right? So think about it. You don't pay to buy the toaster, which you rarely use or don't use. No, you pay per toast. And you find out interesting things that places with higher humidity, toasters don't last as long as places in lower humidity. But you'd be guaranteed when your toaster breaks down, the next day you have a toaster. You don't have to worry about toasting anymore. Now, these are funny future ones, right? Anybody of you owns a BMW? Some maybe, right? What have you heard about this? What is this one? Heated seat as a service. That is not a joke. That is really happening. You pay between $17 to $22 for your BMW to heat your chair. Same thing for smart intelligent headlights and so on. So it's coming to the car, a subscription service, which personally me, I live in Southern California, I don't need the heated seat all the time, right? I just need it maybe when I go skiing in winter, so it's a good innovation. So that's real, right? This one, yeah, have you heard about this one? TV as a service, right? In the UK, you can buy a TV with content as a subscription. And you get a new TV after 2, 3, 4 years, depending how you want to buy for it. Yeah? New digital business models are emerging very quickly based on this transformational change of technology. And that means they all need a key thing from technology and from people, and that is elasticity. Yeah? So how can we make this elasticity of ramping up, ramping down people to do something, how can we make that more tangible and more real in the world of HR? And the core assumption here is famous lighthouse in France in front of the Atlantic coast. How can the speed of your enterprise exceed the speed of the markets that you're operating in? So when your markets are changing very quickly, you can accelerate in your enterprise. You can catch up. If you see your competitors moving slow, you can move slower. It does not mean, some people misunderstand, you have to run full throttle all the time, because it will burn out your enterprise, burn out your resources, burn out your most important asset, your people. Right? But how do you get that confidence? Right? And 2 years ago, I published the post-pandemic playbook. We're going to go through this in detail, so I'm doing this a little faster. So HR core has become prominent again, right? Stinking old HR core, who needs HR core? Well, I need it when I don't know where does my employee live, right? I don't have their home number. They're quarantined at home, right? So what we know about the employee has seen a renaissance on the HR core side. Obviously, payroll flexibility is super important. If you still operate on a very manual, old payroll, you had a hard time to give people a relief payment, an extra bonus, and anything of that. Payroll flexibility is similar to benefits flexibility. Right? Don't negotiate benefits for the year anymore necessarily. Do them for half a year or for a quarter, because that benefit of being able to go to the gym included in your company, which was interesting, is no longer viable in a pandemic. Workforce management capabilities are very, very important. You have to plan shifts, working time. You might even have to plan your workforce management solution for people to go to the office. And of course, everybody has talked about the learning opportunity. Employees have been eager to learn more. Keep that fire burning, that people learn more and learn longer with the learning opportunity, with interesting new learning solutions. Talent mobility, we talked about the wide talent pools which are there, which are working worldwide. And you have to be ready. It took a backseat because companies kept to captive workers, employees, good or bad, doesn't matter. The gig economy has taken a break. The gig economy is going to come back, because the only way for enterprises to get that elasticity that we talked about is through the contracting or gig model. So your readiness for that is very important. Talent acquisition, always been a race, super hard race. In most markets that we see, it's an employee market. They can choose where they want to work, super competitive. And very last, one other slide for you to remember next to the two I mentioned to you already, it's all about empowering your people leaders, the first, second line managers. If you help them to be more successful at their job, at the value creation for their team, you're going to be more successful as an enterprise. Your acceleration is going to be doing really, really well. So what changes the future of work? Be people-centric, obviously. Be agile, right? We talked about this. You have to be fast. You have to think smart. What is coming is a decentralized, autonomous organization. You'll have more conversations about that. Very interesting way. What can you learn from DAOs, not as an investment vehicle, which is also interesting, but in your company? How can your company become more decentralized? In autonomous units, working by themselves, without the traditional pyramid of command and control. Close to HR, talent markets, super important side of your enterprise. You don't want that talent to leave for a job they could have seen but is happening internally. Skills, super important, right? How do you augment your skills? We talked about the skills opportunity, the learning opportunity. Transboarding is a term I created because, surprisingly, companies talk a lot about onboarding. Just talk to a gentleman who does metaverse onboarding, right? And onboarding is important, but the number of transferees in a company is 5 to 7 times higher of the people you hire newly. How can you help those people to transfer and onboard successfully is very important to help your acceleration. Web 3.0, have a workshop masterclass on that. Smart contracts as a way to work with gig workers and outside providers. And no code. There's not enough developers in the world. There's business best practice uncertainty. You don't know how your software, how your future, your best practice will look like. The only way for you to own your automation destiny is to build code with low code or no code, ways where you as a smart business person can determine how software should be working for you. People centricity, very important. We talked about this. Agile, I walked through you in the overview. Let me jump through this slide. Transboarding, Web 3.0, smart contracts, no code. We're coming to recommendations, right? Who is this gentleman? Nobody knows him? Mark Andreessen, yeah, is now a famous venture capital investor, built the first browser at Netscape. He said this, which you all know, right? Software is eating the world. It's not really eating it, right? But it's powering it. All companies are becoming software companies. Because the power, the capability, the flexibility of your software determines how fast you can move, determines what you can do and where you can move. So the selection of your software for the people, which is the biggest expense in your enterprise, is more strategic than ever in the post-pandemic world. Enterprise acceleration is real, right? Nobody of you works in an industry which is slowing down, is getting slower. You have to find the strategies to make that happen. A very important thing, very near and dear to my heart is, right, you're HR professionals and I love you dearly, but there's a general level of technophobia, right? You're afraid of technology sometimes, you don't want to do this. It didn't help that HR was one of the first areas to be automated, and there was this thing created, HR IT, which put you in the position to say, oh, this is technical, talk to my HR IT person. Yeah, which is okay, which is good, it's there, but it kind of like created more technophobia in HR professionals that I personally would like to see, because technology is changing the future of work for the people in your enterprise, which you're the advocate for, so you need to get a little more comfortable with technology. Technology is of course the enabler of all of this. Change management though, right? How do you see what the technology can do? Think about what technology can do for your enterprise and then make it work for your enterprise. Change management, that is really the art. That is the hard thing to do. And the people person and people subject, and you're the people expert for that. And change management, I'm more optimistic on change management capabilities of HR people than technology understanding. But in the end, at the very end of the terminal, I think this is Paddington in London, it's all about the people. And you should feel more empowered and more an advocate of doing the right things for your people. How do they work? Where do they work? What are their work conditions? What do you help them with to find a good way in the very stressful situations that's coming for them? How do you solve the work from home, the work abroad capabilities with the people in the office? That is the really important part. So keep in mind, the speed of your enterprise must exceed the speed of your markets. For time reasons, I didn't show you that. I did an analysis of all the major stock markets. There's a complete turnover in pretty much every stock market index, not only in the US and Germany, where I'm from, in the UK, but even in Japan, which is a very slow, struggling with stagnation economy. And why are all the companies who were originally part in Japan's Nikkei index, part of that index no longer there? It's not that they're gone. They just didn't grow fast enough. They're not relevant enough anymore for that. So don't be that company. So think about new platforms to run your business. Think about new best practices, how you can change the way how your enterprise can succeed and hopefully accelerate. Empower the business, right? Like I told you before, the first and second line level managers really need to be studied by you, because those are the people where HR and finance, right? The headquarter people say, oh, it's just another form, just another spreadsheet to fill out. Right? And you don't think how many of them are there already, while nobody's going to tell the first level manager, oh, we missed our business numbers, but I filled out all the HR spreadsheets. It's not going to save their job, right? I did all the stuff finance wanted me to do. So make the first and second level managers more successful to help your company to accelerate. Remember, focus on the opportunity. Remember on the slide, that's where the disruption happens. That's where the new transformation is happening for you to be successful as an enterprise. And ultimately, on the long-term horizon, we don't have the time for that, right? Be ready for deep learning. Right? Deep learning is the most exciting thing on the horizon in the next 4 or 5 years, potentially, right? And that is software looking over our shoulders and understanding how we work and what we do. And then automating it for us. Sounds very scary, potentially scary, but I think we're at the beginning of this, and it will always be delightful. Some of you might remember that we said, oh, all these truck drivers are going to go away and going to be unemployed. What are we going to do? 500,000 truck drivers in the US alone. Guess what? There's not enough truck drivers. Yeah. Because we tend, using Bill Gates, Esther showed famous quotes on this, right? Bill Gates said, we tend to overestimate what's going to happen in technology in 1 year and underestimate what's going to happen in 10 years. Yeah, so don't make that mistake. Be smart, obviously, right? Never has hurt anybody. If you liked what I told you, join us at our conference in Half Moon Bay in fall of this year. Many more of these conversations will be there. Here's my contact information for you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out for me. Don't be shy when you see me here on the conference, say hi, and more than happy to answer your questions off the stage. Thank you for listening, appreciate it.